So I had a follower on here that got really curious and excited because they didn't know that you could show rabbits. And if y'all didn't know, you can definitely show rabbits. It's a lot of fun. It's like my favorite hobby slash pastime. So what you do is you wake up like stupid early to put your rabbits into a travel cage and take them to a show. There's lots of coffee involved because I'm a coffee monster. Then you wait in this really long line waiting for all your sign up stuff to go in through, and that way you can pay your dues if you didn't pay them before the show. Then you make sure that all the classes are on time and scheduled, and then you sit around and stare at each other until your class is called. Then after your class is called, you put your rabbit in these like contraptions. They're like huge multiple cages side by side by side of all the rabbits in your group, all the rabbits in your variety, and if you get past that point, the best of the groups or the best of the varieties all go up against each other, and then you get best of breed. And then if you get best of breed, you have a chance to go to best in show. It's like so much fun. I love it, but it is a lot of sitting around for the judge to look at your rabbit for like 10 seconds and be like, "Oh yes, the depth is good, but the shoulder is too long." But to be honest, the reason why I like it so much, it's just a bunch of bunny people getting together talking about bunnies all day. It's a blast. And I have a vlog up on my YouTube channel of the last show we went to. But yes, you can show bunnies, and it is so much fun. Not driving. Beautiful mountain. So when it comes to this question, it just kind of depends. For meat breeds, most people butcher between 8 and 10 weeks. For my fur breeds, I wait for 16 to 20 weeks just to make sure that their skin is thicker. And really, you can cull anything you want after about 10 weeks. Just understand that the longer you wait to cull your animals out, the tougher the meat is going to be, making it more of a stew meat instead of a fryer meat.
I have been asked a few times how I pick rabbits for my breeding program. Everything I look for can be found in the Standard of Perfection. I highly suggest getting this resource if you want to improve your stock. Having correct form and understanding of your breed can improve your meat production as well as their value. Joining the OPA opens you up to more resources and mentorship. There are also breed clubs and state clubs. Don't forget FFA and for H for the kids. Let's learn more together.
So it's not really important, it's kind of arbitrary. I show rabbits and I have different color lines. One of my color lines is chocolate and lilac. And I have enough males in my breeding program, so yes, a chocolate pellet is going to be gorgeous in my blanket. But I would rather if it had been a female to have in my breeding program. Because the closer and closer you get to breeding something true. So if I have a chocolate and I breed it to another chocolate and all of their babies are chocolate, the better. And that's because I don't have more outliers that come in that are, unknown. So I can more precisely predict what I'm going to get in my show lines. So yeah, I just wanted to keep a doe and I don't have room for a buck, so I have what I lovingly refer to as my trash litters, meaning that they don't really fit in my breeding program, and so they're going to go to somebody else's breeding program or they're going to go to freezer camp. So it's day 27 for our pregnant does, so I'm going to be filling up their nesting boxes. The first thing I do is I throw some pine shavings down at the bottom, followed by throwing some hay on top of that. I'll pack that in there, and then we'll also throw in some briar lint, as well as some shredded paper for the girls to kind of choose what they want to make their nesting materials out of. I throw those boxes in there and let the girls kind of check out their new environment to start building nests. And as you can see, Sadie here has approved of it. We have 4 girls that are due around the same time, so I threw in those 4 nesting boxes. And for the next couple of days, I'll just keep adding hay on top of what they're already building so that they have a chance to kind of build what they want. So in our breeding program, we keep the bunnies in the box for 2 weeks without change. Then on the second week, we turn the box onto its side so that the baby bunnies can get in and out of the nesting box without getting stuck outside of the box. Because at that standpoint, they start opening their eyes and leaving the next box. The problem is if you don't turn it onto its side, sometimes they can't get back in and they can freeze. So we'll leave the nest box on its side up until about 4 weeks, and then we'll take the nest box out completely. But you kind of have to figure out what works for your breeding program and if you want to make any changes compared to in the summer or the winter. So I know I shouldn't have favorites in a litter this soon because odds are I'm just going to disappoint myself because either it's going to be the wrong gender or it's going to end up having a horrible body type. But y'all, I have nicknamed it Chomper because he likes to chomp on my fingers. But he's so sweet. Look at him. Look at him. I'm hoping it's a girl, but it's a chinchilla and she is so beautiful. I mean, look at this. So yeah, hoping for a girl, but if nothing else, gorgeous baby. So when it comes to things like zoning, HOAs, and that kind of thing, you can look at your house's contracting and then you can kind of go to like City Hall or the City Hall website and see what different animals are allowed in different zonings. So for instance, if it says in city limits you are in a zone 3, you can Google, okay, what is zone 3 when it comes to how many animals and what kind of animals I can have. With that being said, I kind of live to go against HOAs because I despise HOAs. Hence why I live in an area without one. With that being said, most HOAs say nothing about rabbits. And if they do say something about chickens, a lot of times they say something along the lines of no roosters, and you don't need roosters for eggs. You also, a lot of times, don't have zoning or HOA laws when it comes to quail. You just kind of gotta play the game. When it comes to HOAs, rabbits a lot of times aren't even considered as animals to have or not have because of how quiet they are and how easy it is to kind of keep it hush-hush. You can have a shed out back where you have the cages that just looks like a tool shed where you can easily take care of everything and not have a problem. You can keep rabbits in your garage or against the back of your house if you wanted to. And because they're so quiet and a lot of places don't really care as long as your animals are quiet, you can have them. With that being said, do your research, see what your zoning laws say, and remember, if they don't see it, do you really have it? So when it comes to aggressive does, I personally refuse to keep them in my barn. And that's for a few reasons. For one, I have a 5-year-old that handles all of our rabbits, and I want her to be as safe as possible. I also just don't want to deal with it, especially on my show lines. Now, when it comes to my meat lines, I'll put up with a little more flightiness, but aggression is just something I won't. If I have a doe lunging at me, biting me, that kind of thing, I'm not going to keep her. I know that a lot of breeders keep, like, Kevlar gloves for that reason, but I just don't want to deal with it. But again, it's personal preference and how much you want to put up with in your breeding program. I just find it easier to breed it out. So if I have a doe that won't breed, like I've tried multiple times to get her to breed and she's on her last chance, this is what I do. And it's kind of a lot, but it's really successful. And normally if I get her to breed this time, the next time she breeds a little easier. So the day of, I take her for a car ride around the block, go get some coffee, you know, keep her in the car in the sunlight for like at least 10-15 minutes. Then I'll throw her in with the buck. I'll leave them in there to do their thing with 4 to 5 fall-offs, right? Then I will put the doe in the buck's cage overnight and the buck in the doe's cage overnight. That way they're getting all those good hormone smells. And then the next day, about 12 hours later, I'll throw them in again and I will let the doe and the buck breed again 4 to 5 times. But I'll take the doe and I won't put her back in her cage. I'll put her in a travel cage so she doesn't feel like she needs to urinate or defecate, so that everything stays in. And like I said, I know that's a lot, but that normally works for me if I have a really stubborn doe. And it takes some time and it's a little annoying, but it's worth it, especially if you have a really nice doe that produces really great litters and all of that, but you're like on your last straw. But down in the comments, if you are a rabbit breeder, let's hear like your favorite way to get your does to like lift and actually take in a breeding. Y'all, it's cold and my dumbass is wearing shorts. But I'm doing the morning feed and I kind of wanted to show you how I get through like really fast all the cages. So all of the buns have some kind of watering system, a place for food, and then they all get hay as well. So what I do is I take my bucket full of hay and a bucket of water, and then up there is my scoop of food with my measuring cup. And I just go on down the line over and over and over again. 10 minutes later, happy nummy buns. But yeah, setup and organization of how you're going to do things can turn barn chores from being an hour long to 10 minutes long. So find a setup that works for you and try to make it faster. It's fun. It's like a game. So I do keep track of family trees in the form of pedigrees, but that doesn't mean that I don't necessarily inbreed. In fact, I quite often breed father to daughter or father to granddaughter. This is not necessarily inbreeding in the form of getting bad offspring, but it's line breeding. The idea is to breed the best of the best to get even better rabbits. You'll hear a lot of rabbit breeders say that you don't breed the pedigree, you breed the rabbit. Rabbits actually do very well on a smaller gene pool than most livestock. That's why when you're starting out with a trio of rabbits or a pair of rabbits, you technically don't need an outcross for more than a year or 2 years. Because if you're using the appropriate line breeding charts, you can continue going with that pair or that trio almost indefinitely. We had a snowstorm last night. Thanks. I hate it. So something that keeps coming up in the comments on my page is protein poisoning. So there was this study that was posted in 2008 about how if you only eat rabbits, you'll get protein poisoning because it doesn't have enough fat. There are quite a few fallacies in this, to include the fact that it's from 2008, also to include that they were only using wild, starving rabbits, and that was all they were allowed to eat. Domesticated rabbits have more fat, and I would be more worried about catching scurvy, to be honest, if you were just eating rabbit. With that being said, people aren't just eating one kind of meat source, they're eating multiples. Right now I'm frying up some bacon. And even if rabbit were to be your only protein source, the standard American diet is full of fat. Everything is fatty. We're talking butter, we're talking the oils you cook with, we're talking the snacks that you get from the grocery store. Simply put, most Americans eat junk. So eating rabbit is not going to give you the protein poisoning that you think it is on top of the fats and carbs you're already eating. To be honest, it's not a valid argument to say, oh, we can't get rabbits for a homestead because we'll get protein poisoning. Oh, you need another meat source. Okay, then get another meat source if you want. But when we're talking sustainability, rabbits are the most sustainable animal that you can have from a standpoint of they're small, they're quiet, they don't need extra things such as brooders to get more of them. Not to mention, I have ducks, I have quails, I have chickens. They're a bunch of jerks. Arguing protein poisoning is just getting into semantics. You should be having a balanced diet. I'm not just eating rabbit for every meal, only rabbit for every meal. I have a nice balanced diet and have never had problems with protein poisoning. Plus, who needs any other reason to wrap your meat in bacon? So yeah, I have quail. I by no means am an expert on these guys. If y'all want somebody who is an expert, I'm going to tag Freedom Quail Farm in this video. She can better answer your questions, but I can kind of give you what I know so far. So far, I like these better than chickens, but I like my rabbits more. They're faster growing than chickens, they lay eggs sooner, and you can eat them sooner too. They're also like dodo-brained. Like they like to drown themselves in their own water pails, so you have to put stones in their water. Like they don't understand they can't actually swim. I also learned though that the kids love watching them hatch in the brooder. I also learned that they're not quite the best when it comes to being cold resilient. We lost a couple in our last brooding. They also get hangry, which is like super relatable, except for the less relatable part is they'll scalp each other when they're hungry. I'm also trying to learn their color genetics, which is more complicated than rabbits, but still very interesting. So yeah, the quail are fun, but the rabbits are still better. So So butchering quail is actually pretty simple. It's easier, in my opinion, than butchering out a chicken. So you dispatch the head, cut the wings off, peel the skin off of it so all the feathers come out at once, and then you cut the legs off and gut it, and it's done. Super simple. Like, even more so than rabbits, to be honest. And I love me a good rabbit. So, tedious-wise and how hard it is, it's actually not too bad. And once you get into the rhythm of it, totally worth it. And the time I can do one chicken, I could probably do 5 or 6 quail, to be honest. With that being said, I am a crispy skin person when it comes to my chickens, so I pluck them. I'm not sorry. Quit trying to take away my crispy chicken skin. We had this argument on my rabbits versus chickens video, and everyone's like, just peel the skin off, just peel the skin off. I like chicken skin. I like it, okay? It's a bad choice, and it takes so much longer to butcher them, but I like it better. So yeah, I would definitely give it a go. Worst comes to worst, you don't like it, and you eat all your quail. You know? But it's definitely worth a try. Everything is worth a try when it comes to homesteading in my mind. Like, I will try everything out at least once. Like, last year I tried to grow tomatoes, and it failed miserably. So this year we're gonna grow more potatoes. So, yeah, just, like I said, I think it's not too bad. Yes, 100% yes. Rex are an amazing choice for meat and fur. They are my favorite breed of rabbit because they are so wonderful, they're so sweet, and also, and this is besides the point, is they come in so many colors, and it's just so much fun. I have a chinchilla line, and then I have a broken black line. I show all of them, but they are amazing little meat rabbits. So in our breeding program for our rabbits, at any time, any of our breeders can go for processing for meat. It just depends on the kind of offspring they give us. If I keep a doe to breeding age, it means that I want to breed her, but that doesn't necessarily mean that she's going to give me what I want. If she doesn't produce the offspring I think are viable for my program, nor viable for another program because of the quality she's putting out, then I will process them. The same is true with our bucks. Even if they do give us amazing offspring, I will eventually butcher them out. And that's because, in theory, all of the offspring we get should eventually be better than their parents, meaning that I will eventually outgrow and outproduce those animals that I'm keeping in my breeding program to be replaced for better stock. With that being said, most of our babies that come out of our current breeders do end up being processed because they aren't the quality I want. We definitely live by the theory of breed the best and eat the rest. So you can use the furs on any rabbit no matter what the age. The problem lies in how big the animal is and how delicate the skin is going to be. At 8 to 10 weeks, you can definitely use the fur and process it, but it's going to be harder to work with because of how thin that skin is, and therefore it's not really worth it because a lot of times in the pelt you'll get holes. So if you're doing Californians, which are mostly a meat rabbit, it's not that big of a deal because they're not fur animals. With that being said, if you're raising a Rex rabbit specifically for the fur, you might want to wait 16 to 20 weeks to cull them out to use their furs because the skin is going to be thicker, it's going to be easier to work with, and you're less likely to put holes in your pelt and damage it. It's a personal preference kind of thing and is solely based on the animals you are raising. But I personally wait a bit longer when it comes to my pelt animals, that way I don't waste my time and energy by putting holes in pelts. So my definition of better stock are any stock that closely follow the standard of perfection. So for my mini Ricks, this means that they are as close to the standard of perfection in a compact type as possible. For my Rex, my Californians, and my Silver Foxes, this means that they have to closely follow the standard of perfection for commercial type rabbits. And then they also have to follow their breed standard as closely as possible. The closer they are to the standard of perfection, the better stock they are. Now, if you aren't showing rabbits or you are just going for meat, your better stock quality is going to be different than mine. You might be going for animals that have a faster grow out, or you might be going for animals that have larger litters. Whatever you qualify as better stock, write it down and make sure you don't get barn blind. Know what your stock are good at and what your stock are bad at. Improve those bad things while keeping up the quality of those good things. Through this process, you will get the best stock possible. Anyone can take bad stock and turn them to decent stock within a few generations. But it takes somebody who is precise, takes notes, and is constantly keeping up their standard of perfection. Their perfection, not necessarily this perfection. Great stock is formed through preciseness. Cull heavy, keep the best, eat the rest. So I have 4 mamas that are due today, and out of the 4, I have about 2 that are starting to show some basic nesting behavior. This is Sadie, and I kind of have a little trick when it comes to storing chop hay, which is what we use when we let them make their nests. So normally the chop hay just falls through the grating. So what we'll do is we'll put a cardboard bottom in here, and then we'll put the chop hay on top. That way there's less that falls through the bottom, so they can pick through it and either munch on it or build their nests with it. Hi, Sadie girl.